Okay, we're broadcasting now. So Colleen, you can kick it off.
Well, good morning. Thank you so much for joining us today for the virtual new parent orientation at Brebeuf. I'm Colleen Cannon, and it has been a true joy and a privilege to work with all of you. And we really want to thank you for choosing Brebeuf and for trusting us with the great responsibility of educating your children. That means more to us this year than ever, and we appreciate it. It's been also a great joy to see kids on campus this summer for athletics, summer session 2. And I think I speak on behalf of everyone. I don't think we've ever been more excited for the kickoff to the school year. Today is really all about you and making sure that you feel prepared for the school year as a parent to this new school community. And to start things off, I'd like to introduce you to Camelia Popolarski. Camelia is also a parent at Brebeuf. She's got a son who is joining the class of 2024, Drew, and a senior son, Jack. She's the president of the Mothers Association, and she's going to start us off with a prayer.
Thank you, Colleen. Let us settle ourselves and recall that we are in the presence of God. Dear God, as we begin this new school year as parents, we pray that we can support our children as they begin their new journey at Brebeuf. May they feel the support and connection that they need as they begin this year. And let our hearts be filled with gratitude for the educators at Brebeuf Jesuit who are caring for our kids and our families. May they have the strength and patience to navigate the challenges of the year, and may we all remain healthy and well. In your name we pray, amen. Well, good morning. I'm really honored to be here as president of the Mothers Association, and along with 6 others who serve with me on the executive board, we just want to say welcome. You are automatically a member of the Mothers Association at Brebeuf. And as she said, I'm a freshman mom too, and I'm excited about this whole call and launching another kid into high school. My message today is simply threefold. First, get involved. As a new parent, we welcome all to get involved in the Mothers Association. Whether you've been from a private school or a public school, whether you have prior experience in supporting school activities or not, and whether you work outside the home or not, all are welcome in the Mothers Association, and there's a place for you to plug in, and we encourage you to do that. Secondly, our mission. The Mothers Association mission is to serve and enrich the student experiences at Brebeuf. And we do this by volunteering our time, our talents, and our treasures to the faculty, staff, and the students. And we also strive to really build a sense of community around the parents at Brebeuf. Lastly, I invite each of you to come join us and to see what this is all about. We're having our kickoff on August the 25th, around 8:30 to 9 o'clock. That's going to start just outside the Jesuit house. And you'll be seeing an invitation coming across later this week. And it's a casual event. Bring your coffee, bring a chair, and learn more about it. It's really designed to welcome folks like you from transfers or freshman families. And we really look forward to seeing you there. I look forward to getting to know you. Thanks.
Thank you, Camelia. Next, I would like to introduce our Father Bill Verbright, the president of Brebeuf.
I also want to give a special welcome to our new parents. I am Father Bill, and I am a Jesuit, and hopefully if you aren't aware of what that means, down the road you'll learn more about what it means to be a Jesuit school. We have over 470 years of Jesuit education. That is our foundation. In the United States, there are over 60 high schools that we have a very strong network with. And I think one of the strong aspects of us as a Jesuit school is we have these resources and these contacts that really help us to understand and to develop what it means for us to be a Jesuit network in our own context, but also to be a Jesuit school, as part of this network. I think our mission statement very much characterizes what it means to be not just a Jesuit school, but certainly for Brebeuf. And so I would just like to start off your time with us with saying, what is our mission statement? And I just want to say, you can hold us accountable to this. This is what we claim that we are, and I believe that we are, and we are excited that this is our mission. So let me just pray this very quietly. Brebeuf Jesuit, a Catholic in a Jesuit school, provides an excellent college preparatory education for a lifetime of service by forming leaders who are intellectually competent, open to growth, loving, religious, and committed to promoting justice. Fostering a culture of understanding and dialogue, Brebeuf Jesuit seeks and welcomes students from diverse religious, ethnic, and socio-economic backgrounds. Students at Brebeuf Jesuit are called to discover and cultivate the fullness of their God-given talents as a responsibility and as an act of worship. Let me again say welcome to Brebeuf Jesuit. Thank you, Colleen.
Thank you, Father Bill. Next, I'd like to introduce you to Greg Van Sambro, Brebeuf Principal.
Morning, everyone. Welcome, welcome. We are excited to welcome you on this day that we can't see you. We can only see the panelists on this webinar, but we know you're out there. And we know for all of you, it's really the culmination of a journey. Some of you starting years ago, and some of you starting more recently, of figuring out where your child would be going to high school. And here we are. And we're so privileged and blessed to have your families here with us. And we pledge, like Father Bill said, that we will do our very best to carry out the mission of our school, which is one that we take very seriously and that we think that students are really impacted by. So I can't wait to see how that happens for your kids over the next 4 years. I'm going to start with a couple other kind of big picture kind of comments. I've shared my screen here for a slideshow, which I'll use throughout the rest of the presentation as we moderate through the panelists. I'm going to ask the rest of my panelists to all make sure you've got yourself muted. I'm hearing a little background noise. There's not a Zoom meeting until somebody asks everybody to mute. So now I'm doing that.
All right, let's hear it.
Thank you. So I am the principal of Brebeuf Jesuit. I hope we've had a chance to meet before. I'm just starting this next section of the presentation. There are going to be 5 more people after me who will talk about a number of kind of nitty-gritty details and give you a chance to ask some questions too during this session that we have together today. Before we get to that, I am going to share with you a little bit about just another big picture piece. I want to make sure you're familiar with these letters. It's part of the Brebeuf and Jesuit school vocabulary and Jesuits worldwide, if you haven't seen it before, which speaks to why we are all here. So AMDG, maybe you're already familiar with this. Maybe you've seen it around the halls or heard about it as you've investigated Brebeuf. I hope you have. But if not, here it is. It stands for the Latin phrase ad majorem Dei gloriam. And this particular picture in front of you is the one from our library, our info commons at the main desk. And it translates, ad majorem Dei gloriam translates to for the greater glory of God. That's sometimes known as the Jesuit motto. And if you look for it, you'll start to see it all over Brebeuf, as you should. So this is a portrait of St. Ignatius of Loyola that is hanging, I believe, in our school lobby. There's the AMDG with St. Ignatius. Here's a piece of artwork that our faculty and staff made a few years ago as a kind of a creative project, and it hangs, I believe, in one of our stairwells now. That blazing sun is another piece of Jesuit kind of common links, usually refers to the Jesuit saying of go forth and set the world on fire from St. Ignatius. We use that with our kids too. Here's another piece from, I think, somewhere in the info commons with Jesuit terminology, and you'll see it on all of our student uniforms and in many places around athletics and other activities too. Not just a thing for religious ceremonies, it's a thing that should apply to students' lives in many ways. So we teach our students at Brebeuf that all of their work and their learning and their personal development are sacred things. Going back to that mission statement that Father Bill shared with you, that it's a responsibility and it's an act of worship for them to develop themselves. And AMDG, for the greater glory of God speaks to that too. We believe it's not just a transactional experience. It's not just their grades or their college admissions or their resume that they're developing. It's about who they become over these 4 years. So we teach them that they have the sacred responsibility to use their unique human gifts for a higher purpose than themselves. We want them to understand that on a very deep level, to internalize it, to keep striving for and reflecting on and figuring out what is for the greater glory of God. And 4 years from now, as you think about your students starting tomorrow, 4 years from now, that's going to mean something different to each of them. They're each unique individuals, but I promise it'll mean something. We see that over the 4 years. This will come to mean a lot to them, something real, something powerful. So that's the meaning behind AMDG. It's what all of this, our school, this education is really for. And then to bring it now to the next of our panelists in the more kind of practical realities of 2020. I wanted to share, and you may have seen this on social media, shared from the school, AMDG 2020. We didn't come up with this. It was another Jesuit school in New York that shared it with us, and we've adopted it. So we're also using AMDG to remind everybody of our practices. We're take our high-minded, lofty goals and also put them in the realities of 2020 in a global pandemic. So we're also teaching students about how AMDG now refers to awareness of their own health and hygiene, the responsibility to wear a mask for the good of others, the responsibility to distance for the good of others and of oneself, and that all of these things we do are for the greater good to protect everyone in our society, as well as ourselves. We do this for each other as well as ourselves in our community. So AMDG in a couple of different ways, the lofty, mission and goal-oriented, as well as the very practical. We're using it all over the place at Brebeuf, and you'll see it around. I want to make sure you're familiar with it on Parent Orientation Day. So our format for the rest of the time, we have 5 panelists. I'm going to introduce each of them as they go. They're going to speak to one kind of practical aspect of things we think you would benefit from knowing as new families. And following each of their presentations, I want to encourage you actually during their presentations or anytime to go ahead and use the Q&A function if you wish at the bottom of the Zoom screen to submit questions as we go. I know we've had Q&A sessions. I just had one last Friday, so maybe your questions have already been answered in that way. But you probably have additional ones or additional things that come up as we're giving our presentations. I don't know if we'll have time for all of them. It depends on how many you ask. And there's been some that have been pre-submitted that we'll take here. So after each panelist, Mike Higginbotham, our Director of Communications, will kind of moderate the questions. We'll ask some questions that have come up after each panelist before we turn to the next panelist, because each of them are speaking to a different area of the school or a different focus. So we'll try to organize it in that way as best we can. We'll finish by 12 o'clock. And if we finish before all questions are answered, then that's when we'll finish. And if we need to keep going until 12 o'clock, we will. So great to have you here with us today. For the next on our list, I want to introduce one of our assistant principals. We have 2. You'll hear from both of them today. Ms. Jenna Lemaster. Jen?
Thanks, Greg. Good morning, everyone. It's very exciting to get to see the fruits of our labors over the summer. My name is Jenna Lemaster. I have been here for about 14 years. Prior to that, I was in various K-20 settings. I'm also a parent of a current student, a current sophomore, and I successfully turned my lights off. I successfully graduated one in 2017. And now you know we have environmental lighting in our offices, and if you don't move enough, it doesn't think you're here. So I have been asked to briefly talk to you about academic transitions here to Brebeuf. And as you can imagine, we could go on ad nauseum about that, but a couple of things as myself as an educator, myself as a parent, and myself who has been in graduate school recently, I can say the biggest transition that I always tell people from middle school to high school is, first of all, the workload's going to change. I'm just going to tell you that right off the bat. Kids will be fine. It may be a little bit of a shock at first, but trust the system, trust your child, it's going to be fine. I think the biggest issue this year in particular, but it's the same in any academic transition, is it's time to start slowly letting go. If you were like me in elementary school and in middle school, I was pretty involved in my students' academic life. And I realized at high school, even though I'm in the building with them, which they have very mixed feelings about, but it's that time to start letting them figure out what are their gifts, where do they need to work a little bit harder, that self-advocacy sense of education. So what does that look like at Brebeuf, and particularly what does that look like in a COVID setting? So it's number one, it's starting to think about yourself as a high school student. Typically, I would say this is the time that you get your 3-ring binder all nice and neat together, figure out, you know, are you a mechanical pencil or a regular pencil kind of person, and putting on, you know, getting those supplies of academics together. This year, we're adding another layer to that, in that you need to get your workplace together too. And we know this as adults who had to work from home. We watched what happened in the spring, but I would say shifting that academic mindset, it's not just packing the backpack, it's making your homework environment. So what is that place to work? As you know, we ask you to bring a computer, and students have some sort of device for learning. So where is that going to be at home? And then how am I going to translate that to school? Now, the good news here is we've worked really hard, and our teachers have worked really hard. We're going to use one platform for most of the academic work of the year, and that is Google Classroom. So your students will have one place where their assignments will be, where they get their link when they are, my student is a maroon student, so on gold days, he'll know to go to his Google Classroom and click the link to join the meeting. Typically, we would have said in your devices that you needed just a device to collaborate and work. It sort of goes the next level this year in having a working camera and a working microphone. So have your students test that out. The great joy, we use Google Meet for our web conferencing, and your student, you can practice in the house. That's a free product with a Google account. So when my son got his new computer, I was downstairs, my husband was in another office, and we just practiced a little bit in the house to make sure. Teachers are going to do this with your students too. So I have my workplace, I have my school supplies, whether I'm at home or at work, and it's fairly mobile. Some of you asked about scheduling. This is another new sort of COVID environment. It's extravaganza in transitioning to high school. High school gets a little more complicated in scheduling. There's more activities. They are all times of day. They may be in more classes now than your student has been before. So some things that we are offering students, we have Google Classroom. So assignments will be posted to Google Classroom. That will give them a calendar so your student can see all of the assignments and when they are due. We are also buying a product for students called Studio, which some of them have learned about, and they will continue to learn about in digital citizenship class, in their freshman seminar, and in some workshops that we'll be offering here in the school. And that's going to be an app on their phone that helps them schedule. This is coming due. It's going to send them reminders and all of that. And then whatever your student is used to, they can keep doing too. So I have my place to work, I have my materials to work, I'm figuring out how to schedule myself, and that will lead to time management and to sort of keep me going. So it's interesting right now. We always have students who graduate who say, I was very ready for college because I knew how to troubleshoot my computer, I knew how to go talk to my teachers, and I knew how to time manage. I'm going to argue that now our students are going to be even more ready for whatever life throws at them, because they are going to learn how to talk to their teachers and have that interaction with another adult and know that they can problem solve themselves without our help. It's a killer, but it's true. They're going to know how to do their personal devices, their personal scheduling, and their time management skills. And they're going to learn how to web conference, which, you know, we're all doing. A couple of questions that came in ahead of time that I wanted to make sure that I hit. If your student has not signed up for their email, they weren't here in summer school, or you haven't reached out, it's fine. There is a plan for that. You will receive an email tonight from the IT department, from JD Ferris-Rowe, who is our CIO, and it will have onboarding instructions on how to activate your, the student will receive how to activate their email, how to get on the network login, and all of that. Tomorrow during orientation between 11 and 12, there'll be some time in the info commons where they can come with their device. And then after the launch days during their PRTs and free periods, the IT department is always open here in the information commons. And they'll also send a link. They have a great remote desktop where they can live conference with somebody with one of our hardware techs. We'll get them squared away. Someone also asked about some Learning Center things. So the Learning Center is still operating. Like all of our classes, it is parallel. So we have the home audience, as we call it, and we have the in-person audience. And so for Learning Center, for any of the classes, the students who are in the room are going to see the teacher moving around, and your students at home are going to be logging in just like you did. But we'll actually have the cameras going both ways so everybody can see each other. So that will go well. And I believe that is everything I was asked to talk about. Mike.
Hey, Jen, another question that came in. When
Yes.
setting up a new laptop, should a parent be the primary user and student be additional? And does it matter for school purposes?
We find it tends to be easier if the student is the primary user, because if the student is here with tech support, it is often going to ask for that admin password if they need to change anything, and it's easier if the student knows what that password is.
Another one that came in, Jen, will teachers be adding parents using the Add Guardian feature on each Google Classroom class site?
Yes. So be ready. I already started getting that myself. They're going to hit a button that says invite guardians. We already uploaded you all into their Google Classroom. So whatever email you gave us has already been loaded into Google Classroom. And you'll start getting, hey, this teacher wants you to be a guardian. For me, it was chemistry. And I said yes. And I said I wanted weekly summaries because daily overwhelms me. I'm just going to be honest.
And then Jen, maybe I was going to have you address, we have a number of questions regarding class supply lists, such as
oh, yes.
what should be brought? Is 1 3-ring binder enough? There's a number of those. So could you speak to that, please?
Yes, I apologize. It was on my list. So individual teachers will send supply lists if they have a preference. So, but we don't have like a school level supply list. So if you have not heard anything from a teacher, it's most likely they're also going to go over this on the launch days on Thursday and Friday. I personally am sending my child with a spiral notebook and a pen the first day, just so he can take some notes on what he needs. I know some of the math teachers have already sent out that they actually like the 3-ring binder with the dividers. This year, the one change I would say is because we can't share materials. So like I bought my son some extra pens and pencils. I bought him a small stapler because we can't share those things. He has the blessing that he can access my office, but maybe a small pair of safety scissors if they need to cut something. But for the most part, it's pretty much like you would do for college. A 3-ring binder would be a good start with some loose leaf paper. And otherwise, if you don't hear specifically from a teacher, it's up to you if they want to use a spiral notebook or a 3-ring binder.
That's all for Jen, Colleen.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Jen. Next up is our other assistant principal. He's Corey Pettigrew. Corey's going to talk about transition advice for students and families in terms of all the other parts of the high school transition in addition to academics. Corey?
Good morning, everyone. And again, welcome to Brebeuf Jesuit. Once again, my name is Corey Pettigrew. I serve as the other assistant principal. Starting my fourth year here at Brebeuf Jesuit, my first 2, I served as director of equity and inclusion. And for the past year and also this year, I've accepted the role as assistant principal. I'm certainly looking forward to the school year, despite the unfamiliar and novel circumstances that we have been presented. However, we are always inspired by the fresh faces, fresh minds as they begin their high school journey. And this morning, I just want to mention a few words about the non-academic experiences at Brebeuf Jesuit. I do not think it's a slight to say that many of our returning alums, when they mention what's most memorable about Brebeuf, they often speak of the non-academic experiences. So I don't think it's a slight to our academic departments as much as it's a compliment, because many of our non-academic experiences are just an extension of the classroom. And many of those ideas that students implement within the school building, they have their genesis in those classroom discussions, that help to cultivate their youthful ideas and also their lasting and social and professional relationships. Furthermore, our first core value of Brebeuf Jesuit is education of the whole person, which is the idea that each student is challenged and inspired to strive for academic excellence. Yes, to engage wholeheartedly in co-curricular activities, to develop confidence and leadership abilities, and to discover God's presence in everyday life. And so we really take that at heart in terms of the education of the whole student. Obviously, the social distancing guidelines and mandates will pose some challenges this year, but rest assured, we will take every necessary measure to make sure that students stay involved and also stay connected. With that said, my first two words of advice for students of Brebeuf Jesuit, and I think Ms. Pawlarski said it best earlier, get involved. We have a wealth of non-academic experiences. So I would say one is to get involved, and two, just the need for balance. We have obviously very scholarly students here at Brebeuf Jesuit, but we also want that balance between the scholarly life, but also the social and non-academic life as well. First of all, we have an expansive array of co-curricular clubs. Let's start there. Depending on the year, we could have as many as 40 to 50 co-curricular clubs that are student-centered, student-created, student-led, and involvement with our clubs provide students with experiences in organizing, collaborating, implementing ideas, activities, and initiatives. And so in the first few weeks of the school year, each club they have call-outs. So this year we have call-outs not only in person, but obviously virtual call-outs as well will take place in the first few weeks of the school year. Secondly, students are exposed to a wealth of information and also perspectives with our diversity dialogues. They participate in what's called moderated discussions about issues, whether it's facing Brebeuf or facing our city, facing the nation, or facing the world. And actually, again, most diversity dialogues are the brainchild of our students. They come with these ideas, and we simply act as the guide for them. In sappy terms, I like to say, we don't necessarily tell them what to paint. We just give them the brush, we give them the easel, we'll give them all the different resources, and the students paint their own picture. So we just try to guide them and helping them implement their ideas. Topics for our diversity dialogues have ranged from environmental protection to health crisis to hate crime legislation. And many of these dialogues have spurred students to actually get involved and create initiatives, not only within the school, but actually outside in the larger community as well. And so definitely getting involved in those diversity dialogues, I think it's one of those things you often hear returning students often talk about. We also have a number of established community partnerships for the benefit of our students. We understand that Brebeuf is not an island and value the community relationships that can assist in providing students with a wealth of opportunities and experiences to expand their minds and also shatter their limitations. Whether it's partners including the Center for Leadership Development, the Indiana Latino Institute, various community service providers. We take that very seriously in terms of a community service component here at Brebeuf Jesuit, amongst many other community partners. And lastly, I would just be remiss to say that the non-academic offerings of Brebeuf Jesuit is at times the experiential piece that complements the academic theory and knowledge that students gain in the classroom here. Furthermore, within the walls of a college preparatory institution, it is essential to develop those, what we normally refer to as soft skills, that students will carry with them for life. From the importance of just being punctual, the importance of collaboration, to the formation of productive, lasting, professional, and social relationships. So we consider the non-academic offerings to be just as essential to the development of our students as their overall academic college preparatory experience. Again, I'd just like to thank all of you for this short time with you. And again, just to remind you of those few short words or reminders of, one, getting involved, staying involved, but also just finding that balance between the academic side of things, but also the non-academic experience that students can gain so much for, that can make for a long-lasting impact on their lives. So I'm looking forward to working with all of you and meeting all of you and the newest members of our Brebeuf community as well. and making sure that their experiences are both challenging and rewarding this school year. Thank you for your time. Are there any questions? Mike?
Corey, nope, not at this time.
Thank you.
Actually, Corey, I'm going to kick you one of the questions. Don't want to let you off the hook that easy. No, one of the questions that's come in is one that actually pretty much everybody on this panel was involved with. And so I thought I'd just have you address it. And I think it does speak to this kind of whole person approach. The question is, what steps are taken if a student starts to struggle academically? There are a lot of supports in place. What will that look like, and what steps are involved? So Corey, I thought since you're intimately involved in this, could you take that one, please?
Oh man, communication. Starting obviously with our teachers who are at the front lines, especially when you're dealing with academic struggles. Our teachers are at the front lines of that, along with our academic counselors, our administrators. Brenda Adams, our Dean of Students. We have monthly student support services meetings, student support meetings, where we look for any red flags. And these are not just academic. These could be emotional, social red flags as well, where we try to make sure that students are, not only adjusting well, but also that they're excelling. So, when we see students going a certain direction, hey, we got to pull them aside, and that communication piece is there. What's going on? We start there with the emotional side of things, making sure that they're okay, but also providing them those academic supports, whether it's some extra time in our departments, with whether it's math or English teachers. Maybe they need a little extra time. Maybe they need a little extra help tutoring. We also have our learning center staff that are just a crack staff of great teachers and great tutors there that can assist students, whatever they may need. But it's very difficult to fly under the radar at Brebeuf Jesuit. It's, I often say when you go into the academic counselor's office and I'm asking about a student, sometimes I could just say, how's John doing? And they instantly know who I'm referring to. And so it's very difficult to fly under the radar. We try to make sure that every student is known here at Brebeuf Jesuit, to make sure that, those academic lapses, if you will, they don't last long. That's the idea. Those things happen. Students, sometimes they'll fall, but we want necessarily to help them pick them up, but we want to teach them how to pick up themselves. So we want to make sure we give them the tools to do so. But yeah, just the communication piece between our teachers, the counselors, parents, and the administrators, and having those monthly student support meetings are just so very essential in making sure that our students are not only adjusting, but excelling here at Brebeuf Jesuit.
Thank you, Corey. All right, next up, we have our Dean of Students, Ms. Brenda Adams. She's got a couple slides, so Brenda, you can help me to, which I neglected to do during Corey's part, I apologize. I missed those slides. We'll post these for everybody if you want to see the nice pictures of students doing the activities that Corey talked about. We'll have them available for you. Brenda, go for it.
Hi, good morning, everybody. I'm Brenda Adams. I've been the dean here at Brebeuf for 15 years now. There's probably nothing I don't know and wouldn't be willing and able to help you with when your student is around and when you need help with something. We have definitely an open door policy. We want you to call. We want to help. So make sure that you are doing that. I have a wonderful assistant, Madeline McKinney-Torres, who I didn't put her picture on here because she wouldn't have liked that. But she has also put 3 kids through Brebeuf and went to Brebeuf herself and would do anything to help you as well. Just some nitty gritty stuff. I think I saw some of the questions even coming in the Q&A, some nitty gritty stuff that you probably want to know just about your days here at Brebeuf. It's important for me, for all the kids and all of our staff and our entire community to be safe all the time. It's on the top of my priority list at all times. You will see an IMPD officer here at Brebeuf at all times. We have 2 officers that work, not together, but you'll always see one here all day, every day. And that's not because they're policing the students. They're making sure that we are safe. Our community is safe. Most of the time they're spending their time outside or walking around. They're very nice people, both of them. And I look forward to you interacting with them and saying hello. You'll see them at pickup and drop off times, which are likely not going to be your most fun times that you've ever had, but you're going to get used to it and it's all going to be fine once you see the process. And I'll talk a little bit about that at the end. There's probably a lot of dress code ideas on your mind. Your students probably don't want you to know what their dress code is supposed to be, but from my benefit, it does benefit for me for you to know what that is. We don't have a whole lot of small ticky-tack type of rules. One thing that you do know if you're a parent of a girl, we do not allow girls to wear leggings at Brebeuf. So they might need to change their entire wardrobe by the time Thursday comes, but there will be no leggings here in our building. And just in general, on most days, we also don't wear athletic wear below, as pants. So we don't wear basketball shorts or gym shorts or sweatpants. Only on special days do we wear those, and you'll hear those things from your kids. But for the most part, most of our kids wear jeans or khaki pants or khaki shorts or jean shorts or anything like that, just is a little bit better than wearing sweatpants or pajama pants every day. And our kids actually do not hate it. So we just continue on rolling with that. As far as a top goes, the only thing that you really want to think about when a top is boys and girls, we don't wear tank tops. Our shoulders have to be covered at all times. So whether that's a boy or a girl, just make sure that they're wearing something that has sleeves, I guess is the way you should put it. I'm going to skip the next bullet point just because there were some questions, but all your students will get their ID cards on launch day. So they'll get it on either Thursday or Friday. And that will print out for them right there when they get their picture taken. So they'll walk out of that room with their ID card and a lanyard, and they'll wear it around their neck. They have to wear that lanyard with that ID card around their neck every day, all day. So they need to get that started. We won't scream about that in the first few days, probably not even the first week when it comes to freshmen, but eventually some of your students will be spending time with me after school for forgetting it, and that's okay too, because we've done it ourselves. Every one of us on this panel has done it. And we've worn a sticker and our lives have been fine, and we've all went on about our ways. Just another learning tool for them, and I promise they're gonna be fine. Let me know if you have questions about that, but it'll be super easy. Your students will get, the picture people will be set up on Thursday and Friday by 7:30. You know that school doesn't start till 8:30, but the doors open at 7:30. So students can come in and get that picture early if you'd like, or they can do it on their free period throughout the day. It's easily managed. We've done this for a lot of years, so there's no reason why they can't do that. That will also allow them to use their ID for lunch that day if they are able to get down there earlier. If they can't get down there to get their ID card, then they can just use cash for lunch that day. And if you have any trouble with that, just have your student come and see us. We would never let anybody go hungry in any sort of way. You do know, I'm sure you've read the communications, and most schools are doing this right now. We're holding lockers back this year, at least for right now. We'll see what happens maybe second semester, but right now we do know that that's a major infestation of germs and whatever else. So we're just going to hold those back. I don't think, and your students can probably figure this out with their teachers on the first day, the first few days, but definitely don't send your kid with 9 books in their backpack. It's unnecessary. Those teachers will let them know when they need X book or when they don't need X book or whatever. They'll be safe to have, like Jen said, a couple papers, pencils, binders, notebooks or whatever on the first day, and their computer. But as far as the books goes, I'd say just slow down, leave those at home until the teacher says when they need them, and they'll find a nice process in all of that. Greg, I'm gonna ask you to switch to my map. There you go. Thank you. Pickup and drop off procedures are going to be the bane of your existence for a while, and we're all going to get through it. I'll tell you, it takes 13 minutes to get everybody out of here in the afternoon, and that is not very much time, but that takes a lot of patience on your part, and it just takes everybody following the rules. I will learn very quickly which parents that are out there that don't really want to follow the rules, and then we'll figure it out together. But it makes it a whole lot easier if we all just work together. First thing I'm going to talk about is drop off. When you come here on Thursday or Friday, whichever your launch day is, what's going to happen is you're going to come in that main drive that you can see the white lines in that are going toward the building, and everybody's going to turn left. When you turn left around that corner, that drive is automatically going to turn into 3 lanes. And this is when your kids are probably going to determine how cool you are or how cool you are not. Because when the upperclassmen are honking at freshman parents, your students get embarrassed very quickly. So be the cool parent and understand that in the very left lane is going to be a through lane for mostly the upperclassmen will get in that lane, and they'll be going straight out to the student parking area, which you can see is gray. The middle lane and the lane closest to the school building is where you want to be. And as soon as you get down towards where it says gym, you're going to stop and drop your student off and let them go. And then everybody exits, excuse me, everybody exits east in the morning. There is no westbound exit. So you can go down, turn around at Town Road and go west if you need to. But in the morning, everybody exits east. It is very efficient. It goes very quickly. There are a lot of speed bumps, so go very slowly and take your time and just be certain that you know where you are and you're doing it slowly, and everything will be great. If I flip to the pickup procedure, it's kind of the same, except there's going to be a whole bunch of us out there directing you and helping you. Freshman parents typically come a little early, and you'll see that line build up. It'll be a double line in the main drive all the way down to the gym waiting for your student. And we will get you out of there in 13 to 15 minutes, I promise. I don't want to talk as much about that because we'll direct you. It's more confusing than the morning, and we'll be out there to direct you. But just know that all of our students get picked up and dropped off at the gym entrance. Do not expect your student to come to the main entrance to get picked up, and then you can whip a U-turn right there to go back out to the light. That's not really how it works. It doesn't work very well. And I had 4 accidents in the parking lot last year, and every one of them was a parent. So work with me and we will all get through it just fine. I think I also said school doors open at 7:30 every day. You don't drop your student off before 7:30. They won't be allowed in. Nobody will be allowed in before then. And you know, that's an hour before school starts. Some of your kids are early birds and some aren't. You know, that the drop-off area will be busy from 8:15 to 8:30. Please know that. So if you want to avoid a lot of that hassle, drop off a little earlier or get yourself in the mess. It all goes very well, and I look forward to working with you all about it. Mike, I don't know if I have any questions. That's about it. I think that I have.
Yep, a couple here, Brenda. Could you speak to just the process of lunch on the first day and IDs and lanyards again? We got a number of questions about that.
Okay, so students should if you drop your student off anytime after 7:30, they can go straight into the East Gym, which they're coming in that way anyway. They can go straight in there and get their school picture taken, and their ID card will be spit out right then. They will walk out of that room with their ID card, and we'll put it on a lanyard for them, and they'll wear it around their neck. And they should have loaded, or you've probably gotten a million emails about Pay School. Pay School is the program that loads your kid's lunch card, puts money on your kid's lunch card. That's how you've done that. And he can use it for lunch that day. If you want to send your student with cash because you're worried they're not going to manage that ID thing, I will tell you that last year though we had 1 ID day and not one student did not get an ID card before that day was over. And this year we have 2, just because of launch days. So I don't let that be a source of confusion or nervousness on your part. We will get them through. I'll make many reminders throughout the day. Kids will get their lunch card. If you want to send them with $5 to buy lunch, please do. Mike, what was the other part of that? Was that it?
That was it. Another one though is, would you recommend coming 5 or 10 minutes later for drop-off pickup? Does this help or hurt?
It probably hurts actually. Well, no, it probably helps. Once the line gets moving, it's helpful. If I were you, if my kids were at Brebeuf, I would not come at 3:14 or 3:15. It's unnecessary. There's a line of cars 80 deep just waiting for that moment, and it's really not necessary because at 3:19 we're going to start all moving those cars anyway. So unless you want to sit there and swelter, which makes no sense to me, but probably 5 or 10 minutes later is actually beneficial for you.
Another one, can you just confirm which students are allowed to drive to school?
Any student that has driver's license and they register their car with us.
Another one, do you have any alternative suggestions, bikes, bus routes, or carpools?
Sure. Last year I had 3 kids that rode bikes. There's a bike rack out by the gym that they can lock their bikes up to. There is a public bus stop straight out of school, just to the right a little bit. And we've had several bus riders in our lives. And, I know parents and people somehow work out carpooling situations that I've been involved in, but I'm not super good at, but I think all those are options for you.
And then a couple of questions, Brenda, about registering their cars.
Yeah, all the upperclassmen, they'll do that on the day that we on the day that we take pictures. We'll be in there and we'll ask for their license plate. That's really about it. They'll need to know the make and model of their car and their license plate number. We'll give them a hang tag for their rear view mirror, and that's it. We don't make that hard. We just want to know what cars are in our lot just for safety reasons.
Can I jump in there about carpooling? If anyone needs help establishing a carpool or connecting them with a carpool, you can let me know that, and we can help connect you with some people in the community.
Brenda, I thought maybe you could answer this one too. It says on the first day, I imagine there will be people guiding our students about where to go. And I know that we do that. I just thought maybe you could speak to that for a second.
Sure. Do you think it means during the school day, or what do you think?
Yeah, especially on day one about where things are and how to get to certain areas of the building.
Oh, yeah, sure. They're going to have more reminders than they're probably going to want, and they're going to think that, you know, we're the ones that are stupid in that case by the time half the day is over. Your kids are going to know the Brebeuf schedule better than I do, and I've been here a long time, so don't worry about them. They're going to be just fine. It's probably they're going to hear less of that from me and Greg and Jen and Corey than they're going to hear from their teachers. Their teachers are going to be super great about reminding them. They're going to work out their lunch schedule for them on that day. We never let anybody go hungry, so you know, don't worry about them here. And if your student is texting and worried and whatever, please have them come and see one of us. Them calling you isn't going to help you or us. Like we want to help them. They just have to come and talk to us. The dean's office is always open. The school dog chief lives up here. There's kids up here all the time. There's no reason why they can't just come up and hang out and say hi. And if they have weird questions, we tend to field most of those, and we will for you guys as well as parents.
I'm going to keep going with the Brenda Adams show here. If you have an appointment prior to the start of school or during school, is the late drop-off or other drop-off time still the main door or the gym lobby door?
Great question, and I'm sorry I did forget. I did leave that when I talked about Madeline on Greg's previous slide, which he can put back if he doesn't mind. There's a attendance line. That's the school attendance line, and I should have remembered this because it's actually what drives me the most crazy. Not knowing where students are when students haven't showed up for school, that makes me pretty nervous, and I don't really like it. So I think it says in our handbook, we would love to know where your students are by 10 o'clock. If your student is sick, if they have the dentist appointment at 8 o'clock, you can call that attendance line. That's Madeline McKinney-Torres's phone, but it rings a lot, so you probably aren't going to get her as a live person very often, but all it says is just leave us a message, tell us what time your student's going to arrive or what time they have to leave, and we work that we work that out with your students. But even if they are, that's another great part of that question. If they are late to school from an appointment or they're coming in late or whatever, it's always the gym lobby. Students always use the gym lobby entrance and exit.
I guess one more question, Brenda. I'm going to give you this one. If a student has a gluten allergy, do you believe they should still have a lunch account?
I think so. There's actually, well, I'm not as familiar with Quest as I was with our last provider, but there's actually like an iPad type thing down there that you can type in the thing you want to eat and it will give you the ingredients of what that is. And I'm sure if your student is gluten-free that he or she probably knows, you know, what directions they should go in as far as food. There's a lot of options down there.
I'm going to give Brenda 2 more minutes because they just keep coming in. Brenda, do we call the attendance line ahead of time for doctor appointments, days in advance?
Yep, absolutely. Yep, you can call the night before even and just leave it on there, and yeah,
all right.
Easy.
I'm going to go rapid fire. Are students allowed to stay after school and study in the library? Are there typical after-school activities?
Sure. This year we are asking that our students leave here by somewhere between 3:45 and 4 o'clock. We have got to give our maintenance staff the ability to clean up after every day if this is the way, you know, we want to stay in school. Most of the time I would say yes, that they could probably hang around till 4:30 or 5 and it would be fine. But this year I'm going to tell you that they need to try to leave here between 3:45 and 4. And I'm probably going to run them out between 3:45 and 4 just because we have to have a reset every day and it's going to be hard enough with athletics. I do know that a lot of students walk across our street, you know, across 86th Street, and there's Panera and Starbucks and, you know, blah, blah, blah. If you're a later arrival, you know, at work or whatever, there are a lot of students that sit there and study, which I don't know what their options are over there, but I'm sure it's relatively available. And I apologize in advance. I'm sure that's going to be a little harder for some of you than it would be in the past. But this year we have to just make those little concessions.
The Brenda Adams show has come to a close. For all the questions.
Please call me if you have any more. I'm always happy to answer.
Thank you, Brenda. Mike, you're next.
Good still morning, everybody. If you can't see over my right shoulder, that is Lauren Trotsky. I'm going to bring her up in a second to speak about the dads, but most of you, I'm assuming at this point, at least know my last name because it's on all the emails that come to you. I wanted to highlight just a few things today, including In Depth, which is our weekly newsletter. I encourage you to read it each week. In that will be what's coming up, what has happened, celebratory items, and we're each year, each semester, we try and tweak it to make it better, trying to make it in a way that is more palatable for all of you to make sure that you have the information that we, believe to be super important. I want to briefly mention social media. A lot of you I've noticed have already followed us on the various platforms, so I won't spend a ton of time there. The Brebeuf Jesuit app, though, is one I did want to highlight. It's especially for new families. If you download it, there are some primary buttons there that'll give you one-click access to our schedule, one-click access to the calendar, and one-click access to the screening. And for us, it's a way to simplify some of those daily tasks that maybe you don't want to bookmark or try and find each day. Lauren and I also manage brebeuf.org. And I want to highlight a couple pages here based on some of the questions we're getting in the Q&A. We're getting a lot of questions about the cafeteria and loading money and things like that. So I want to highlight, just to answer a bunch of the questions, if you go to brebeuf.org and click on Campus Life and click on cafeteria, a lot of your cafeteria answers will be there. If they're not, there's a contact on that page to better address some specific questions. Another page is brebeuf.org/reopening. A lot of the things that we used to spread out throughout the website in different categories, we've tried to find a way to get on that page, especially now in these crazy times, and trying to get everything to be centralized. So if you have a question, if there's something you're looking for, start at brebeuf.org/reopening, or you can always email everyone you see on your screens. Before we go, because I'm going to wrap quick, because we still have to make sure we discuss athletics, I'm going to have Lauren speak a little bit about the Dads Club at Brebeuf.
Hi, everyone. So I'm Lauren. In addition to working with Mike on marketing and communications, I am the liaison for the school to our parent organizations, both the Mothers Association and the Dads Club. So Camelia did a great job earlier touching on the moms and how wonderful of an organization they are to get involved and for volunteering. On the other counterpoint of that is our Dads Club. Also a fantastic group of dads that get together. They do volunteer projects for the school. They meet about once a month, sometimes less, sometimes more, but we always communicate those meeting dates in depth, as well as they send out their own version of correspondence to kind of keep people up to date on when their things are happening. So you will definitely see information coming through your email, as well as the in-depth newsletter about upcoming activities for them. So I really encourage all of our new dads and moms to get hooked up, involved. Those are great groups to be a part of and to kind of have your feelers into the school and know what's going on.
Thank you, Lauren. One more thing, one of the pre-submitted questions that came in was regarding orientation and whether we were going to live stream it or record it. And the answer is yes on both. Where it will be is probably Facebook and Instagram, and then a recording, as we've been doing, where we'll go ahead and go live, and then later in the day we'll put out that recording. So for those families who are interested in being able to see those activities this year, that will be available. I was looking through the questions real quick too, and there's a number for Ted, who's coming up next. But on the cafeteria questions, there was a few about a rough estimate for the cost of lunch. I didn't address that. That is on that page as well. And then I think that's it for now. I'm gonna let's get it to Ted so he has more than a couple of minutes here to do his portion. Thank you all. I'm so excited to have you join us at Brebeuf.
Thank you, Mike. Last but not least is Ted Hampton, our Director of Athletics.
Thanks, Greg. I'm really excited to enter my 14th year at Brebeuf, 7th year as the athletic director, and 20th year in education-based athletics here in Indiana. My staff consists of, I have an assistant athletic director, Jake Weinstein, who's a phenomenal asset to this school, wears a lot of different hats, very, very talented. Todd Howard, he's our athletic events coordinator. He also serves as our boys basketball coach and does a phenomenal job. Spent most of his life as an assistant and head coach at the NCAA level downtown at IUPUI. We have 2 student athletic directors this year. Both are phenomenal, Anna Ramirez and Ryan Witchker. We're excited for them to get started. They're going to, our first home events are this Saturday. They're eager to get going there. The main thing, the takeaway is that we want to offer an inclusive experience for every level of athlete here. And the best way for us to do that is through our core values that are aligned with the core values of the school and the mission of Brebeuf Jesuit. It's our coach's job to learn about all of our student athletes, and that relates well to the care of the person. Education of the whole person is very important. I know that Corey mentioned that earlier. They're not just athletes, right? They're students and then every other co-curricular that they're involved in, and that's typically quite a bit. Faith development, we work really well with our campus ministry program to develop a retreat for each team. Sportsmanship is of utmost importance. That's all the way from our student athletes, coaches, but you as parents. We want Brebeuf to be the pillar of Indiana in regards to sportsmanship. And last but not least, multi-sport participation is crucial to the development of any athlete. We want all of our athletes to be able to play as many sports as they can. I'm very happy to say that we have two senior girls that are playing 3 sports this fall. And we put a calendar together and it's going to make that work for them. And that also aligns well with the Inside Out initiative. We're in year 3 of that to create an education-based, purpose-driven, and transformational athletic program. Some small housekeeping things. If your student wants to play a sport, they need to have their participation documents turned in, and that's a 2021 physical examination form and history form, or if we have a 1920 physical examination form and history form and the health history update, they're all set. But we have to have those on file in the athletic department before they can officially try out at an official practice. And you can send those via email or drop them off the school to Todd Howard's attention. The last piece of that is they need to be registered on Family ID. And there's a link to that on BrebeufAthletics.org, more, and then register for sports. We've had a great summer. We're in week 6 of the COVID challenge. I feel like this is an episode of Survivor, a season of Survivor. And we've asked all of our coaches and kids to pre-screen. That was with Team Snap. It will be with MedBot. Our coaches are going to continue to use Team Snap, that they arrive in masks, that they sanitize, that they're distanced. We're going to enter a challenging time here as the seasons begin of students on the sidelines and masks. It's really important at home that this is being reinforced, that if they're not engaged in a strenuous activity, that they're in a mask at all times. We had a great call with Virginia Dr. Kane last week, and some of you are probably watching the press conference as you're watching this, and it looks like we've got a path forward, and it's because of the dialogue that myself and other athletic directors around the city have had with her, being able to let her know that we have a great plan, but that the most crucial piece of that plan is for us to hold ourselves accountable and wear those masks. We're distanced on the sidelines, in the locker room, and then downtimes at practice. Because of the 50% capacity in the school, we've adjusted our practice times to 4:30. That could get moved to closer to 4 as student athletes get with their coaches and let them know that, hey, I don't live that far away. And if that team can get started a little bit earlier, they will. The coaches will let you all know that. We did get some direction, some clarification on home event venues and away event venue capacities in Marion County. It looks like it's going to be limited at 250 total. We're going to get that verified. To me, the language a little confusing, but we'll communicate those directly with each team. Rest assured that we will do a great job of prioritizing availability of those tickets to parents of student athletes, seniors down, and those that can't be there. We do have a live streaming component that we're working on that that we should have up and running by the end of the week, but be patient with us with that. We have had some technical issues with our provider, but are working through that with IT. And that's the end. And if anyone has any questions, I will wait for Mike to deliver those.
Ted, if my freshman is playing a sport, can she stay at school before practice?
Well, I'm going to follow what Brenda said. So we do have some teams that have scheduled study tables. If your team does not have a scheduled monitored study table, Brenda's direction to have students out of the building by 4 o'clock would apply.
Next, for those families who have a practice at a time where they can't get home and then back to school, what should a student do in that case?
I would follow Brenda's instruction. We have a lot of outdoor space covered, especially over by the tennis pavilion, in the stands, picnic tables. They can run across the street to Starbucks or Panera Bread, but we will be closing the school at 4 o'clock.
And then one more, Ted. If Family ID is set up on a team and they're only considering a spring sport, do they need to set up the Family ID or wait until a certain student will be on that team? So basically, when do they need to do that, and do they have to do it multiple times?
Just once, yes. You only have to do it one time. You could play 12 sports, just need one registration. I'd go ahead and knock it out. It doesn't take that long, and that way you don't have to worry about it in the spring. Every year we have student athletes that miss a tryout because a piece of the requirements were missing. And these are IHSA guidelines or even state guidelines. So we can't let you not do it. It's a non-negotiable.
And then that's it for Ted. Greg and Colleen, we have more.
It is 12 o'clock, but there's still some questions that I think we can easily answer with some rapid fire here. So I'm going to say some of our panelists might have other appointments or requirements they need to get to. If any of you need to drop off, I'm just going to attempt to answer all the rest of these questions myself as best I can. And for all of you watching at home, I'm just going to keep the Zoom open until I can answer most or all of these questions that come in. And if you haven't put one in, you still want to, go ahead. I can stick around with you for a little while, okay? So Mike, I see that you've organized, I think, on the Q&A. I'm just going to start taking it through the ones that are open and see how long this takes. So one question on required length of shorts. That's our dress code is actually not, it's phrased as the same for boys and girls. It's pants must touch the knee. So that's for everybody. Next, during summer session, there was a lockdown for some police. Sorry, it just moved on me. There was a lockdown for some police activity outside of campus. Is there a notification system for such incidents for parents? The answer is yes, there is a notification system. And also a clarification, there was not a lockdown this summer for police activity. There was a accidental trip of our code red alarm over the summer that lasted about a minute. And we immediately got on the PA and told everybody it was a false alarm. And that's what happened. So that's why we did not use our notification system over the summer when that happened. But when we do have an actual code red alarm or when there's actually a lockdown, we do have an immediate notification system where all parents will be notified as soon as humanly possible, and it's very quick. Question about the freshman retreat. We are still making plans for retreats. We still do plan to have retreats at Brebeuf this year in COVID times, and we will get information about that as soon as possible. Let's see, live stream of sports was already answered. For the MedBot app on the parent's phone, when it asks to enter the name, is that parent or student? That should be the student's name. So we've made it possible for parents or students to fill out the MedBot self-screening. It's really kind of meant for the students to do, but if a parent wants to do it for the student, if you're talking through it with them this morning, that is fine. Put the student's name in there, please. Whenever the student comes into the door each day, we're going to ask them, if you've done your self-screening, can you show us the results screen on your phone? If they can't, we're going to ask them to either do it on their phone right there or to fill out a paper form. So ultimately, when the student comes in the gym lobby each morning, they should have the results screen to the My MedBot app on their phone to show us on their way in along with their ID. If they can't do that, they can still come in once they've done the self-screen on paper there with us in the gym lobby. So it'll just expedite everything if a student does it on their phone, brings it in and can hold up their phone with them on the way in. But we did still leave it open for parents to be able to do on behalf of their students if that's a way that you as a family want to do it. Anyway, Brebeuf can prepare maroon, gold schedules, printable PDFs broken down day by day beyond the first 2 weeks. Actually, we have it through September 8th, I believe. It's the first 2 academic cycles. So it's the first 16 days of school starting next Monday. So we have it through August. And we didn't do it beyond then because of so much uncertainty right now of how long we're going to be in a hybrid schedule versus any other kind of schedule. We thought that was what we wanted to provide for people at first. So you got August, you've got up through Labor Day, and we will continue to provide printable schedules beyond that once we need. Speaking of that, there's a question about 2 gold days in a row. This is a confusing thing, so I want to reiterate, this is why we made those schedules printable. Does gold, am I reading the schedule right? Does gold go twice in a row on August 26th and 27th? Yes. The way it works is the first 8-day cycle, maroon is on the evens and gold is on the odds. For the second 8-day cycle, which switches over from August 26th to 27th, gold is on the evens, gold is on the odds, maroon is on the evens. That makes it so that there's got to be 2 days in a row for gold. When we go to the next academic cycle after that, I think September 8th to 9th, again, not printable published yet, but maroon would go twice in a row. We'll help students keep up with it on the Studio app, as we said, on all the information that we give them at school. And parents, you have those printable ones up through Labor Day to clarify that for yourselves. So it is correct that gold goes 2 days in a row on August 26th and 27th. My son's schedule lists class periods as letters, but the overall Brebeuf schedule lists numbers. Is it safe to assume that A equals 1, B equals 2, et cetera? Yes. On the schedules, A is period 1, B is period 2, C is period 3, and so on. If you get beyond H, I think there's I's and J's on some particular types of schedules. Those are special periods, sometimes PRTs, sometimes other, sometimes independent studies. Probably no freshmen have that. Maybe some transfer students might. If you're not sure, email Amy Pitcher, and she will tell you very fast. She's the one you get your schedules from. That A is 1, B is 2, etc. Let's see. What do most kids wear for ID and yearbook photos? Is casual okay? Do kids look nicer than they might on an average day? Casual and normal dress code for the ID yearbook photo is fine. It's really your decision and students' decision as a family. But yes, most students in the yearbook photo do have their kind of normal casual look, what they're comfortable in for their yearbook photo, and that is perfectly fine. And that's what's on their ID too. Same with, there was a question of, can you give me more interpretation for comfortable clothes for New Student Orientation Day tomorrow? Just think of it the same way as you think of every other day as described by Brenda. You know, casual clothes are fine in terms of jeans, khakis, jean shorts, cargo shorts, those kind of things. T-shirts, button-up shirts are all fine. That is what we mean by casual. We mean this kind of same thing as casual as every day. And I can just tell you, we're not going to get kids in trouble for any dress code violations on New Student Orientation Day. That wouldn't be a very welcome orientation. But generally, we're just talking casual, meaning the usual comfortable dress code clothing. Let's see, how many upper class transfer students are joining the community this year? Colleen, I want to say the number is about 20. Can you confirm that for me, please? You still there?
Yeah, that's confirmed, Greg.
Thank you. Do you give away lanyards with IDs, or do we need to come to school with one? Yes, students will receive a lanyard with their ID. They do not need to provide their own lanyard. Is it okay for students to ride the bus home? Yes, the bus is available, as Dean Adams said. How do you find your student's ID number to set up their Pay School account? Instructions on that should be on that lunch information, the Pay School information. If it's not, you can get their ID number by emailing Amy Pitcher. It might also be on their student schedules. Mike, do you know the answer there?
Yes, it's also the patron ID is what they're looking for.
Patron ID is the same as student ID. Are there limits to who can come watch Brebeuf athletic competitions? Parents, grandparents, friends. There will be capacity limits. And when there are capacity limits, we're going to need to ticket them. And we'll have a system to distribute tickets by priority first to parents of the athletes and so on from there. So it'll depend on the event. There are no general restrictions for every event at this time. There are going to be event by event ways to manage the capacity, which, as Ted said, you'll hear about as parents of kids in the athletic competitions. And then for big events like community events like our football games or other things like that, we will also share those with everybody who's typically interested in getting tickets or who's coming. You'll get more information about that in depth. Launch day hours. Example, my son goes 8:13 and not 8:14. Correct. First official day per the app calendar is noted as 8:17. So I'll reiterate, just about a half hour before we started this meeting, you received full launch day instructions via email. All students in the maroon cohort will be here launch day beginning at 8:30 on Thursday, this Thursday, the 13th. All students in the gold cohort will be here on Friday, the 14th, and silver cohort students will join their classes online on Friday, the 14th. Silver cohort students should also plan to come in to get their ID photo taken. They can come directly in the East Gym and leave straight from there on Thursday, the 13th. That's because they'll be in class on Friday, the 14th online. But we do still want silver students to get student IDs. If you have a chance to drop them by school just for 10 minutes that day, that's all it should take. They can just get their IDs and leave. It will be useful to them down the road anytime they're at school. So please plan on that. So yeah, the first day of school for everybody, though that means in person for maroon, online for gold and silver, is Monday, 8/17. I have two questions here, Ted, about is there really a tennis tournament for every day for the first 2 weeks of school? Can you clarify what the tennis schedule is, please?
It would depend on the team. We do have 3 teams, so they're going to be playing quite frequently. Give me 1 second and I'll confirm that schedule.
Got it. Thank you. How many students are in the silver cohort? Currently 35. What was the app for their phones they needed for class? Was it YouTube Studio? No, I believe, and somebody else on this might be able to confirm this, I believe that all we recommend for students to have on their phones as far as apps that I know of other than individual teachers, but for the school, it should be the Brebeuf app and the Google Classroom app we recommend for everybody. Is there anything additional, Mike, or is that it?
Yeah, for the screening purposes, they'll need to go to brebeuf.org/screen and download the MedBot app.
Right, the MedBot thing. Thank you. One question, how does the Learning Center work? So if you're enrolled in Learning Center, just plan on joining your Learning Center class like any other class. And students who are at home online should plan to devote that entire Learning Center hour to being live online with their Learning Center teacher. They're not necessarily gonna have an hour-long straight conversation, but what they'll probably do is check in every time they have a Learning Center period with the students who are online, talk about the work that they have going on, other issues that are on their learning plan, and then ask the student to work on things they need to be working on like they usually would be in person in the Learning Center, just from home, live, online, to be right there and have the teacher be right there for them for questions. So I think Learning Center is going to be each time there is a Learning Center period, it's going to be a synchronous hour of together with your Learning Center teacher. And with a small group, it's not all one-on-one, it's about 1-on-4 or 1-on-5 or something like that. So if you're in Learning Center, you should plan on joining that online, just like you plan on joining all the rest of your classes.
Greg, I do have an answer.
Thanks.
For the tennis question. Tennis between the 3 teams is typically playing every day of the week except Fridays and Sundays. There are a few weeks, like the first week in September, where they don't play until Wednesday, and they only play Wednesday that week. There will be some rainouts and things will get moved around, but between the 3 teams, they're playing about 5 days a week.
Great, thanks. Do gold students have virtual class on Thursday? No. Nobody joins, sorry, not nobody, let me start over. On Thursday, maroon in-person only. Nobody joins online on Thursday. On Friday, gold students in-person only. Maroon does not join online, silver does. Refer to the launch app, or the launch days email you got about an hour and a half ago for review of that and to check if you forget.
And Greg, I'm going to add that message in its entirety to the brebeuf.org/reopening as well.
Great. Where do they go if they're being dropped off at 7:30? All drop off and all pickup of students happens in the gym lobby. And the gym lobby will be staffed every morning at 7:30. There'll be somebody there to open the door, let students in, check their IDs, check their self-screen, starting at 7:30. So gym lobby entrance is where all drop off and pickup happens, beginning at 7:30 each day and up to 4 o'clock each day if they're not staying for athletics. If they're staying for athletics, you should also pick them up outside the gym lobby when their practice is over. Okay, I believe we have covered them all. I'm going to double check. Mike, do you see any I haven't covered?
I do not.
Okay. That's going to wrap it then. Thank you all so much for joining us for this hour plus. It's great to have this opportunity to welcome you, and we're very excited to start this journey with you once again. We are all of us on this screen, and all of your teachers, we're a very available school. We're responsive, and we're happy for you to email us questions at any time. So feel free to email any follow-ups to any of us about anything we talked about today if you have questions. Thanks so much. Look forward to seeing you, all your students, all tomorrow for new student orientation day, all freshmen and transfers. Thank you so much. We'll see you soon.